Welcome to the Fighting Irish with Theo Caldwell. I'm Theo Caldwell, and this is the Fighting Irish. Here's Theo Caldwell with Patrick O'Neill, and together we are the Fighting Irish. What do you think, Patrick, of that for the name for the broadcast?
I love it. Okay, it's one of my faves.
Yeah. You know what? We've earned, I think, the street cred to call ourselves the Fighting Irish, which regular listeners will know made its way right to the top of the maybe pile for names for this program last episode. And the reason we've earned the right to go with the Fighting Irish for now, like honestly, this is totally unofficial, we're just screwing around. But anyway, the reason we've earned the right is because talking about fights, honestly, man, have you ever seen a radio broadcast call a sporting event as accurately down the line as we called the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight last week?
I must pat my back.
Exactly. You pat my back, I'll pat yours. It's ridiculous. Go back, TheoCaldwell.com, take a listen. It's unbelievable. I can't believe I said take a listen. That's a banned phrase. People have got to stop saying take a listen on any kind of journalistic outlet. Anyway, we told you last episode, that Floyd Mayweather would do his pity-pat stuff for 12 rounds and win a unanimous decision over Manny Pacquiao. And that's exactly what happened. You're welcome. You're welcome, betting public. Now, we'll get to it. There's a news story about it. We'll get to it later on in the broadcast. There's been some bad feelings, some ill will, some harsh words, and a lawsuit about the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight. But the fact is, on this broadcast, we told you again and again, in the clearest language, in the smallest words we could find, what was going to happen, and it happened. So we are the Fighting Irish. Hey, Patrick, you got a new hat. You got an Irish hat to celebrate the...
Yeah, it's a lovely gift from Theo.
Yeah, nice. All right. So, Theo Caldwell here with Patrick O'Neill, the Fighting Irish, and we're going to do an Irish show, okay? Because we're really going to try this out. It's an Irish music show. And, you know, we're still, regular listeners know, we're still considering doing a Canadian TV themes show, which is going to be gangbusters when we get around to it. But we need a news hook to do it. You can expect to hear the theme from Beachcombers, Danger Bay, Degrassi Junior High. You'll get all that. Buckle up, gentle listener. But you know something? We're not doing it. We're doing the Fighting Irish. We're doing, at least not yet. We're doing Irish. Now, important stuff is happening, and those of you who are joining us for one of the first times, you know that what Patrick and I do is we go through the news of the past week, and we do it for a couple of reasons. One, in this topsy-turvy, crazy world, we forget stuff almost instantly. Once we learn it, we forget it. And also, we're kind of paid to be analysts, right? And we know a thing or two about a thing or two. We know which end is up. So we analyze. We analyze news stories. But we touch on what's relevant and what's happening on a going forward basis. We're like the Roman god Janus. We look back at the week that was and we look forward at what's to come. And that's the other theme of this broadcast, Mother's Day. Because tomorrow, as I speak now, speaking live, Mother's Day is tomorrow. So this is kind of a Mother's Day show. Now, my mom is Irish. Your mom is definitely Irish.
Yes.
Right. So we're doing an Irish show, not just because we're the Fighting Irish, which we are, and because you got a new hat, which you did, but also because it's Mother's Day. Our moms are Irish. Now, I don't think my mom listens to the Dropkick Murphys, which was what we had coming in, but we got some more sweet motherly type things. You got plans for Mother's Day with Mummy O'Neill?
Nope, working.
Really?
But I will give her a call and wish her a happy Mother's Day.
Honestly, you know something? If you called your mom more often, then I wouldn't have to. Okay, so let's get on that. By the way, Jim from Uxbridge is already all over the Irish show. He's saying, "Did you know that Chuck Norris is Irish?"
Of course he is.
He is if he wants to be, right? By the way, don't call yet because I don't want to talk yet. I got stuff to get to. But you can text me if you want at 71010. Bank it for later on. If you want to call, if you're listening live, 416-872-1010 or Star Talk, star 8255. But really, make sure that the nation needs to hear what you're saying before you call me because I got a lot to get to this episode. But text me at 71010, 71010, as a number of you are already doing. Now, as I mentioned, Mother's Day is tomorrow, and Patrick's working, but in my family, Mother's Day, of course, means one thing, and that's interventions. Interventions, for those of you who don't know how an intervention works, it's very much like a surprise party followed by a stern lecture. And that's what we'll be doing, of course, as we do every Mother's Day at the Caldwell family. But I can't say too much about my own mom's issues, because a lot of them, obviously a lot of them are still before the courts. So I can't say too much publicly. But, we make lemonade. I swear we do, because my mom's parole officer is a real sweetheart. And she's become pretty much part of the family. So anyway, it'll be a nice supervised visitation that we have. The other side, though, my mother-in-law, whole different ball game. This is the first one. We're doing the full-on intervention with the folding chairs and going around the circle about her gambling. And this is the thing with my mother-in-law. She gambles a ton. but it's on bridge, which is not even it's not even a betting game, right?
That doesn't sound exciting.
I know, but she's adapted it. So she goes like, I bid 4 clubs and $1,000. And she's got herself deep in the hole, which is why I'm still working in radio, right? Because we all got to pull together. She's in with the wrong people. And it's not like you can pay off the mafia like on credit, right? Like the mob doesn't take your Discover card. So we're up against it. But again, Mother's Day is a time to come together, and this is where the healing begins. I'm looking forward to it, quite frankly. Right?
Sounds like an interesting family.
No, it's gonna be good. All right, let's stop with the throat clearing. Let's get on with the news. Okay, let's get on with the news of the week that happened. We've already dealt with the Saturday. Last time we spoke was the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight. We called it right down. A couple more comments I got on it. We talked, Patrick, about whether people listening to us were going to order it on pay-per-view or go to a bar. Now I broke down when I finished the broadcast last episode. I ordered the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight. And I got 2 things. I don't know if you heard about this. One, the guy who does "Let's Get Ready to Rumble," that guy?
He needs to be retired.
As the kids on the internet say, you had one job. His only job was to introduce Pacquiao and Mayweather. I don't know if you heard it. He's like he hadn't even cleared his throat. Like, somebody get the guy a lozenge. He gets like $2 million for saying 16 words, and he was all croaky. What the hell, right?
He's the worst of the 2 buffers now.
Nicely played. And then the other thing is, did you see they had Jamie Foxx, like the actor Jamie Foxx, sing the national anthem?
I saw him out of the corner of the screen. I said, not Jamie Foxx for the national anthem. And everybody was like, no, what are you talking about? And then he did it. It was one of the worst versions with all his little flourishes and saying hallelujah at the end. It was embarrassing. And then afterwards he tried to say, oh, no, guys, I nailed it in the room. It was just the audio recording. It doesn't work that way.
Can we do that? Like, if you and I have a really funny conversation in the broadcast booth before we go to air, and then we suck when the show starts, can I say, no, but Patrick and I were hilarious, and it was just the 2 of us screwing around?
Yes, in the room, we did a great show.
In the booth, we were eating the stuff left over from Ted Woloshyn's show. We were having a wonderful time, right?
We could get away with 1 week of that.
Yeah, you know what? And I think we've had our week, buddy. I think we have. Okay, so those 2 things were weird about the Mayweather fight. We'll move on until we get to the news story. Let's get to Sunday of the week that was. Okay, here's what happened Sunday. 3 things I want to talk about. From now 4. Okay, make them quick. First, there was apparently, and I didn't see anything more about this besides the reportage, there was a Black Lives Matter protest outside the U.S. consulate last Sunday, outside the U.S. consulate in Toronto on University Avenue. Did you hear about this?
Yes, I was well aware. I was at work while it was happening.
But was it a big deal, or was it like one of those little things? Because I didn't.
It was a smattering of people. I don't want to belittle it, but it was not. Okay. It was certainly not like in New York City or in.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and belittle it, because here's what I'm going to tell you. It was about, of course, the problems that have occurred in the United States with the various shootings and everything else. It makes me crazy, the fact that all these things have to be made about race. I've said this many times, but the idea that having a protest in Toronto claiming Black Lives Matter, as though anyone anywhere near the U.S. consulate on University Avenue in Toronto doesn't agree that Black Lives Matter, it just seemed absurd.
I wonder, the U.S. consulate didn't even think about calling anyone and saying, guys, a lot of protests here in Canada, we need to get to work on this.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, gosh.
What's the
Canadians,
effect?
The Canadians are disappointed in us. What are we going to, what do we go to DEFCON 2 because of that? It's ridiculous. But anyway, I thought it was silly. Besides, I've spent some time in that U.S. consulate. You know what's in there? Like one guy and some staplers. Like, it's not, it means nothing.
A place to renew your passport while you're abroad.
Right. Now, on Sunday also, here's an interesting thing that happened here in Toronto. On Sunday last was the Toronto Marathon. And you know who won, the surprise winner?
No.
You think it was a Kenyan because you're such a racist.
Absolutely.
But you know who? I'm not joking about this. You know who won? Ezra Levant.
You're kidding.
I'm not, that guy's got an incredible kick. Like the last, and he runs in a suit, right? Because Ezra is so busy. The guy is so ubiquitous. He's everywhere. And we'll get to that in the news later on. But yeah, that guy, he'll reel you in on a rope those last 2 miles. And he did. No one was expecting Levant. Ezra Levant, the godfather of distance running. So anyway, Sunday, actually, to be honest, I don't know who the hell won the marathon. But I you know what? Retroactively, I'd like to bet on Ezra Levant winning the Toronto Marathon. Also on Sunday, sad. That guy, the guy who was the husband, you see this? The guy who was the husband of Sheryl Sandberg from Facebook, and he himself was an important internet guy in his own right. He's from SurveyMonkey. Guy died on a treadmill at a hotel in Mexico. Did you see that? He's 47 years old. The husband of Sheryl Sandberg of Facebook. He's on a treadmill and he hits his head, collapses, hits his head, and dies. That's like the worst thing I ever heard.
What a freak accident.
It is
That's
a freak.
terrible.
The guy's a multi-gajillionaire, self-made genius, and he goes down on a piece of gym equipment. There is no way to salvage that legacy. Like, that's just bad, and I feel bad for the family, of course.
Yeah, that's such a strange accident as well.
I know. Okay, now, Sunday, we've done enough smaller stuff. I'm going to introduce a big story, and then we'll go to break, okay? Because this is all sort of filler, except for Ezra's come from behind win, but the rest is kind of been filler. So I'll just tell you the big story we're going to get to, and we'll get to it after the break. And the big story, of course, Sunday of last week, is the shooting in Garland, Texas. You guys, you've all heard this. It's been reported all over the place, our affiliates, everything else. Pamela Geller, this woman who's sort of likes to agitate a little bit, and she had a Draw Muhammad contest in Garland, Texas. And a couple of guys drove like 1,000 miles to try to kill everybody. And instead, they themselves got shot by a off-duty cop who was working security at the event. Now, we'll take a break. You all know this story. I'm going to say a few things about it when we come back. But, you know, they're proud of saying, in Texas, we shoot back. And we've talked a lot about Muslim terrorists, about political correctness, shutting stuff down. I don't like to see people get shot, of course, but I'll tell you something. There was at least a glimmer of hope in the way this situation got handled. I'll expound on that a little bit more when we get back.
You're listening to Theo Caldwell on News Talk 1010.
You are indeed. And Patrick O'Neill and I are real gone. Right? Van Morrison for the Irish show. What? You can't go. You know what I just realized? It just hit me now. We're doing an Irish music show. We don't have any U2 on the list.
I think that's a proud list.
Yeah, you know why? Because we're going a little bit more Irish esoteric, right? We're not. Anyone could do U2. Any idiot can start their show with Pride and
It's a softball U2.
Yeah, but Van Morrison, and this, by the way, this song this makes Brown Eyed Girl look like Twinkle Twinkle. Like, this is a great song.
Absolutely. His version of Comfortably Numb actually is my favorite. It's fantastic.
Yeah. All right, listen, we got to get moving, Patrick, because we got a lot to cover and very little time in which to do it. Write your congressman. Now, before the break, I was saying to you, Theo Caldwell here with Patrick O'Neill, and we're doing an Irish show in Mother's Day, in advance of Mother's Day. Both our moms are Irish and whatever. I was saying to you about the shooting in Garland, Texas that happened. You all know about it. You heard about it on the news, blah, blah. This Pamela Geller had this thing, people contest to draw a Muhammad cartoon. And two angry guys happened to be Muslims. It didn't happen to be. They're angry because
pure coincidence.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, and people can't see me smirk on radio, although the millions watching on the web can. Of course, and instead they came down to this event in Garland, Texas, to kill everybody. Instead, they themselves got shot, taken out by a security guard who's an off-duty cop. Okay, here's what I want to say about this. People have said a lot of stuff about this Pamela Geller. Okay, they've said, you might have seen some of the clips on various news shows of CNN and all kinds of people. They're asking her, why would you do this? Why would you have a Draw Muhammad contest?
The burden obviously being on the victim.
Right, asking her to apologize or explain her actions. And, you know, it's appalling, and it's been said in many different ways, so I'm not going to spend too much of this segment on it. But these are the same people who will tell you to lighten up about something mocking Christianity, who will tell you if there's a government-funded piece of art that does violence to a crucifix or the Virgin Mary or whatever, they'll tell you, oh, you know what, it's art, or you want to censor everybody. But when it comes to something like this, they don't have the strength of their convictions. They don't have the sand to say, wait a second, the problem here isn't someone exercising their free speech. And the point of having free speech protections, as they have in the United States codified, and as we have in practice in Canada as part of the common law system, the point of it is for speech that people find offensive. And if you can't stick up for a person who advocates something like a Draw Muhammad contest that people find offensive, then you really don't believe in free speech. If your instinct, as so many journalists is to blame Pamela Geller and those people for what happened, instead of the actual maniacs who went out there trying to kill everyone in Garland, Texas, then you got a problem. And we've done a whole show. We've done several shows, Patrick and I, on how we're going to lose the war on terror and how we got no guts in this part of the world. And it's true. And I stand by that. Ibid, Your Honor. You know what? Go back and look. TheoCaldwell.com, and you can listen to what I've said and take it up with me. Listen to me now and believe me later. We're going to lose. And we're going to lose when I see things like journalists asking Pamela Geller to apologize or to explain herself. Now, I said I see a glimmer of hope in this, and I do. I see glimmers of hope because, first of all, there are at least a few people, like me, like this broadcast, I think like Ezra and like a few other people who have said, and Jonah Goldberg and a few other people I really admire, who said, you know something? Basically what I've said. Freedom of speech means precisely that. It means freedom for people to say inoffensive things. Speech that is not offending anyone doesn't need any protections. It's speech like draw Muhammad. And by the way, in the early days of Islam, they used to draw Muhammad all the time. It's a relatively recent development that there's a certain segment of Muslims that decided we're going to kill you and hack your head off if you draw Muhammad. It's ridiculous. So there's that. But there's a guy named Ben Shapiro. He's a young guy. Well, I don't know if he's young anymore, but he was a really smart guy. Younger than I, anyway. He went to Harvard Law School, and he's got some kind of a radio show and a columnist. And I'm not a huge fan of him because he's one of those sort of provocative guys, and I'm not. But I do admire some of the things he said. And Ben Shapiro talked about what I'm describing, the fact that Michelle Gellar's the one who has to explain herself, not the guys who want to kill her. And she, I think, tweeted, he goes, so if two Muslims shoot a cop over Muhammad drawings, that's diversity, Ben Shapiro wrote. But if two Christians refuse to bake a cake for a gay wedding, that's evil. I think that pretty much sums it up, right? If a Christian bakery doesn't want to bake a cake for a gay wedding, they're evil. They got to be put out of business. They get death threats. They get shut down. They get fined 6 figures, right? But a couple of Muslim guys try to kill everybody just for making a drawing that they don't like, or a series of drawings, and that's diversity, right? Am I summing this up fairly well, Patrick? You're listening to me intently.
Yeah, I have nothing to add.
Okay.
It's exactly the same way I feel about it.
Okay, all right. So you know what? Let's move on. I'll say one more thing. No, somebody made this suggestion. You know what? Why not an arts grant for Pamela Geller? In the United States, they like to give arts grants to people who take crucifixes and put them in the jars of urine or smear crap all over pictures of the Virgin Mary. They get arts grants that every taxpayer has to pay for. And when Rudy Giuliani, who was mayor of New York at the time, tried to pull some of those grants, they're like, oh, it's censorship. Because in some people's minds, the idea of not forcing taxpayers to pay for something is the same as censorship. It isn't, of course. So you know what? If you're willing to subsidize, taxpayer-funded subsidize hatred against one religion, Christianity, why not give a grant to Pamela Geller? Because, of course, it's a double standard.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Too much time on that. Monday was May the 4th. National Luke Skywalker Day. May the 4th be with you. I say that only because I've been making that joke for like 25 years. Now everybody on the internet's been making it.
Yeah, I didn't hear that enough.
Yeah, I know, but I'm patient zero, man. I'm just the first guy to make the May the 4th joke.
Everyone's the first guy to make the May the 4th
All
joke.
right, so it is read, so it is written. Okay, that was Monday. Monday also, Tiger Woods broke up with the latest really attractive blonde lady. Like I thought, when I saw the picture of who Tiger Woods broke up with, I thought it was his wife that he broke up with. But it's the girlfriend after his wife. They look exactly the same. It's the same looking woman.
He has a type.
Yeah, he does have a type. And frankly, if you're Tiger Woods, I guess, whatever. But the only thing I found interesting about that is one guy on a comment on one of the articles. And my friend Kathy Shadle, she says, always read articles online from the bottom up. Read the comments first and then the article.
Way more entertaining, at least.
Yeah, and that's, shout out Kathy Shadle. She said that one guy said, I want Tiger Woods' ex-girlfriend to know that I'm available. I'm not a sure thing, but I'm available. I thought it was really nice. Okay, let's move on. Monday also, we heard the name of the new royal princess. Remember we were celebrating last episode the birth of the royal princess? I called that too. I said it would be a girl because it goes boy, girl, boy, girl. That's science, genetics, look it up. And I also, though, I was wrong on my prediction. I said it would be Princess Amanda Capito. My second guess was, I said it would be Her Royal Highness Amanda Capito. Or Face of News, Krista Erickson. Those were the two, but it wasn't either one of those. It turns out the new royal baby's name is Princess Charlotte Elizabeth Diana, which I guess I should have been able, except for the Charlotte part, would have been pretty predictable. You happy with that name?
I couldn't care less.
Okay. You know what? Neither could I. I just want to make a joke. Yeah, I don't care. All right, that was Monday. Okay, last bit for Monday, and we got time for this. Okay, last thing that happened on Monday. 2 people announced for president of the United States. Now, regular listeners know I have saved you so much time on this broadcast. You should really just send your checks directly to me or made out to cash. I've saved you time with the Manny Pacquiao Mayweather fight. I told you what was going to happen. And I made you some money if you bet, according to what I told you. And I've also saved you time when it comes to next year's presidential race in the United States. I have told you only 1 of 5 people will be the next president of the United States. 2 people who fall outside that roster announced on Monday. The 2 people who announced are Carly Fiorina. She used to be the head of Hewlett-Packard, and then she ran for Senate in California and lost. It's not going to happen. Just honestly, exhale. It's not going to happen. Somebody might put her on the ticket if they think they're going to lose to be vice president, but Carly Fiorina is not going to be president of the United States. And the other person is Ben Carson. He's that doctor, hell of a guy, pediatric neurosurgeon, brilliant guy. It's not going to happen either. At All. Anyway, both Carly Fiorina and Ben Carson announced their candidacy to be president of the United States on Monday. Now, for those of you just joining us who haven't heard previous episodes, you know what? I'll throw you a bone. The next president of the United States won't be Carly Fiorina. It won't be Ben Carson. It will be one of Hillary Clinton, Jeb Bush, Martin O'Malley, Marco Rubio, or Scott Walker. That's it. Scott Walker, Marco Rubio, or Jeb Bush for the Republicans, one of those three, or Martin O'Malley or Hillary Clinton on the other side. That's it. Any other discussion is a waste of your time. You're welcome. This is Theo Caldwell with Patrick O'Neill. We'll be right back.
Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling.
This is Theo Caldwell on In-Depth Radio, News Talk 1010.
Yeah. You know something? We Irish, that's how you know you're Irish. If you can't get through this song without tearing up, you know, if you arrive in Ireland and you don't have your passport and you claim to be Irish, they play this for you. And if you could get through this without crying, they know you're faking it. But if you break down lugubriously, as I am doing now, Patrick O'Neill, they know you're a true Irishman.
I never listen to the lyrics because I don't want to cry.
Yeah, I know, right? And I'm telling you, again, it's science. No extra charge on this broadcast, giving you some science. It's science. It's genetics. That's how we Irish are wired. We are impervious to psychoanalysis, cf. Freud. And when we hear this song, which isn't even Irish, John McDermott does a whole talk about this song. It's like written by an English guy. The lyrics are by a Scottish guy. I don't know. It was published by an Australian in Poland or something. Like, anyway, point, it's not Irish, but we've decided it's Irish. And we love this song. Now, Patrick O'Neill is joining me. I'm Theo Caldwell, and we're doing a Mother's Day show. My mom used to sing this to me when I would fall asleep till I was like 35 or so. She hits that high note beautifully, too, my mom.
I was going to say exactly like this.
My mom's a natural soprano, so when she hits that high note, only the dog can hear it, and he goes crazy. But, yeah, Danny boy. Theo Caldwell here on the Fighting Irish, but we're taking it down a notch, doing our Mother's Day.
It is depressing.
It's not depressing, man. It's just you know, for the old country. Let's catch a flight as soon as this broadcast is done. Now, let's pick up the pace, Patrick, because we have a whole lot of stuff to talk about, and we don't have a lot of time. By the way, so before the break, I told you the 5 people who might be president of the United States, the only 5 people. Somebody texted to ask about Bernie Sanders. How about no? Bernie Sanders isn't going to be president of the United States. We got some good texts I haven't even dealt with. Jim from Uxbridge texted us to say that if talking about my mother-in-law lose all the money she's lost playing bridge, and it's a fortune. There's several commas in the amount of money that my mother-in-law has lost playing bridge. And Jim texts to say if Chuck Norris played bridge, it would be a death sport. That's true. Some people are texting about Jamie Foxx singing the national anthem, which was a total disaster, and someone in Guelph thought it was Jamie Foxx back in living color. It's true. It seemed like we were being punked. It was ridiculous. But we have to move on because I got news. And one more thing, Mike Huckabee, former governor of Arkansas, who ran for president last time, or 2 times ago, 2008, he's running for president too. Forget it. Just forget it. Don't waste your time. Mike Huckabee's not going to be president. He's on the list of wasted time. So that happened Tuesday, okay? As Patrick and I go through the news of the week. Tuesday was 70th anniversary of VE Day, Victory in Europe Day, all right, in World War II. I want to honor it. I want to acknowledge it. And I also want to say this. I was a little honked off, Patrick, by the way it was reported. I'm not going to mention any names of news outlets, not this station, but like TV news stations. They kept saying, the end of World War II. We're celebrating the anniversary, the 7th anniversary of the end of World War II. It wasn't the end of World War II in May in 1945. There was, in case you don't have HBO, an entire Pacific theater still going on until August, which ended kind of decisively with a couple of big explosions, right?
A little dramatic, yeah.
But the point being, how can people who work in journalism tell you that Victory in Europe Day was the end of World War II? That VE Day in 1945 in May was the end of World War II? Like the Pacific Theater didn't exist.
How much did we have at stake in the Pacific Theater?
A lot. You and I would be doing this broadcast in Japanese if we hadn't won the Pacific Theater.
No, I mean specifically Canada. Who did we have over there bodies-wise?
That's a fair question, but the Commonwealth was strongly represented over there. We were part of the Allied forces fighting
Australia
over there.
as well. So we should have just been cheering for them as well.
And it was, and there is no, you cannot make the case that just the victory in Europe was the end of World War II. Everybody knows that, because otherwise it would be like the war in Europe. It was World War because there was a Pacific Theater as well going on. Right?
They were fighting all over the place.
Yeah, and if you really want me to Google, I can give you all kind of stuff about Canada's involvement in the Pacific Theater. But the fact is, we honor VE Day that happened on, was it Tuesday, this past week, 70th anniversary of the victory in Europe. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. August was the end of the Second World War. Okay. The USS Missouri, the signing of the... Okay. Tuesday also, I still don't understand how to work the Uber, but people love the Uber and they've applied for a taxi license in Toronto. And our mayor, John Tory, says that that Uber and the taxi industry have to learn to coexist. Well, okay, fine. We all have to learn to coexist. I'm sure John Tory slapped a coexist bumper sticker on an Uber car and a taxi, and he thinks that's the end of it. Anyway, Uber has applied for a taxi license. I hope they get it or it's dealt with. I hope government doesn't wreck Uber, because even though I don't know how to work the Uber, people love it. It sounds fantastic. It sounds like the kind of spontaneous thing that happens when you let people just come up with a market-based way of getting other people, instead of having government have to license and monitor and regulate everything. So that happened Tuesday. Now, let's move on where we got to talk a lot about something. This is big. This is big. And this happened Tuesday night to Wednesday. The NDP, the Unrepentant Socialist Party, won the election in Alberta. Now, you know about this. You're probably all still whatever. But I was absolutely gobsmacked. I'm going to tell you something. I don't really care a lot about provincial politics, even in my own province. Like, except for stuff like the sex ed curriculum in Ontario and what's her name, Sandals Jamaica, the Ministry of Education lady, who I find to be just awful. Like, I don't say much about provincial politics. I try not to, because I find it so boring, okay? And I certainly don't care about provincial politics in other provinces, like Alberta. Plus, I'm kind of a guy on the slight right. Like, so many of my fellow travelers, if you will, on the right, talk about Alberta, right? All the time. Alberta all the time. And for me, Alberta is not my monkey, how was the expression? Not my circus, not my monkeys. But I watched this thing where the most rightward province in Canada, ostensibly the most right-wing province, voted in a majority NDP government. And there were two things that happened. First, I had a thought. I thought, my God, this looks familiar. This reminds me of what I lived through. I think you might have been just born, when David Peterson was the Liberal Premier here in Ontario, and he called an early election. And then, in a protest vote, a lot of people voted for the NDP, right? But we didn't think they were actually going to win. I think I was almost old enough to vote. We didn't think they were going to win. But sure enough, somehow the NDP won. And so that communist socialist owl, Bob Rae, became the Premier of Ontario, because people were like, what the hell? What do we do? We were just joking around. We were kidding. We didn't really mean it. And Bob Rae became the Premier, and we are still paying for one term of that communist socialist owl Bob Rae as Premier of Ontario. Okay. So anyway, that was just a nascent thought I had. I didn't care much because it's not my area. But then I read a great piece about it, which I recommend. And I've never recommended, that's not true. I probably have. There was a piece by Laurie Goldstein, my old friend Laurie Goldstein, in the Toronto Sun, Calgary Sun newspapers, okay? Dear Alberta, it's headlined, about the NDP. And he goes through, Laurie Goldstein does, he goes through step by step how the parallels between what I'm describing, when Bob Rae surprisingly won the election in, was it 1990, to take over for David Peterson in Ontario, and what happened in Alberta this past Tuesday to Wednesday. And you know something? It's like that thing on the internet, the parallels between John F. Kennedy and Abraham Lincoln, about which I wrote an award-winning play called A More Perfect Union. It's eerie, actually, how similar it is between the Alberta election and what we saw in Ontario 25 years ago. And the other column I saw, and this is why the news-related thing, my buddy Ezra Levant, I swear to God, Ezra is everywhere. He's winning the Toronto Marathon in a suit. He's running around. He's writing columns, right? I used to work with Ezra. And he's such a little ball of energy. We got to hood him like a falcon to get some sleep, right? Because he doesn't stop. He read this giant article in the National Post, like it was done. When did he find the time? He wrote this article in the National Post saying Albertans wanted a broom. That is to say, they wanted to sweep out the corruption of the Conservative government the last, 41 years in Alberta, 42 years. Not a hammer and sickle. Same move. Anyway, I recommend those two columns. One, Laurie Goldstein's in the Sun newspapers, and second, Ezra Levant's in the National Post. And here's the last bit I want to say about the Alberta election, because I'm not sure this is an interesting topic, because I don't care about provincial stuff, and we're not. Last thing I want to say is this. Jim Prentice, he was the Premier of Alberta. He was the leader of the Conservatives. I remember when Jim Prentice, and he's now resigned from politics, even resigned from the seat he just got elected to. I remember when Jim Prentice was in the Harper cabinet, and he was here in Toronto, okay? And I went to a lunch that he was at, and everyone was, oh, Jim Prentice, what a rising star, what a genius, what a wonderful man. And I don't know if you have, but I've had this. in Canada and the United States. I'm lectured about how brilliant a politician is, how great a politician is, and then you meet him, you talk to him, and you hear the speech he makes over lunch, and you think, am I missing something? This guy is an empty room inside an empty house in an abandoned neighborhood. Like there's nothing happening. And sure enough, he's neither fish nor fowl. And I recommend for more background on the erstwhile premier of Alberta, Jim Prentice, read Ezra Levant's column in the National Post. The things this guy did, huge deficits he delivered, ostensibly as a conservative in Alberta, tax hikes, stern lectures to the people of Alberta. From what Ezra describes and from what I saw the brief time I knew him, this guy deserved to lose. But I'll tell you something, Alberta, those of you, the millions listening in Alberta to this program, honestly, it's going to suck. You may not realize it. You may not realize what you've done. People on the left, like the NDP, like Hillary Clinton, like Barack Obama, while you're at it, know how to campaign where politically disinterested people think that they're normal. And then you give them power and they go Kukalabanza crazy left wing. That's what's about to happen to you, Alberta. And you, as the second most important province, Pache, but seriously, economically, this is probably the second most important province after the one in which I am now seated. We're all going to suffer for what you've done. Everybody listening to me, whether you're in the Toronto area or Ontario, we're all going to suffer because Alberta's going to suffer. Just trust us. Trust us. I mean, it's too late. I wish I'd called the Alberta election, given the advice as tightly as I called the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight.
Yes, don't cut your nose off to spite your face.
I know, man. I should have. But, it's just, honestly, just lay back and think of England, Alberta, because that's what you're getting for the next 4 or 5 years. All right. We got lots more to get to and one more segment in which to do it. Theo Caldwell with Patrick O'Neill. We'll be right back.
It was Christmas Eve, babe, in the drunk tank. An old man said to me, won't see another one. And then he sang a song, the rare old mountain dew. I turned my face away and dreamed about you.
More from Theo Caldwell on News Talk 1010.
Yeah, we're doing an Irish show. Patrick, can we do the rest of the show with an accent and blame the British for everything?
No.
The potato famine, the black and tans. There's blood on your hands, Mrs. Thatcher. Can we do that?
You can. I couldn't pull that off.
Ah, sure you can. All right, so it's Theo Caldwell with Patrick O'Neill. We're doing an Irish show for, it's a long story. If you're just coming in, I can't help you with everything, but I'll explain to you. We're doing an Irish show because we're the Fighting Irish, because we called the Pacquiao, it's kind of abstract, isn't it? Because we called the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight, right? And because tomorrow is Mother's Day, we're celebrating Mother's Day and our mums are Irish. I think that's a good enough reason to do an Irish show. And that's, of course, the Pogues, Fairy Tale of New York, arguably the greatest Irish song ever. All right?
Arguably the worst teeth on a singer ever.
That's true. That's exactly true. Except Tom Waits, I think, is a close second. All right, let's move along. We're in our last segment. You can still text me, and everyone texting, I will stay late. If you're listening to online later on, you're screwed. Just suck it up. But if you're texting me live, you're listening live, 71010, I will text you all back. I don't have time to do it during the show. Got some very good ones, though. I don't want to get to... Oh, I'll do one about the Irish show. Archer. He writes... of all the world's people, the Irish are most mad because all the wars we fight are happy and all the songs we sing are sad. It's true. Nice one, Archer. Alliston, Ontario. Good. Okay, let's really move on. Seriously, let's stop screwing around here. Kathy in Burlington writes that the expensive NDP mistake is fading from Ontario's memory. And we may make that mistake in electing Horvath, as the NDP leader here, to be the head of the province at some point. I don't know.
If we do, then we deserve everything we get.
Probably true. But, and if you're just joining us, it's because I was talking about the Alberta election, the NDP, and the upset. All right, let's move on. It's covered. Deal with it later. Wednesday of the week that was. Two sports-related things that happened on Wednesday, all right? First, just one more note on the Pacquiao-Mayweather fight. Manny Pacquiao is being sued. There's a class action lawsuit for several $1 million because he said after losing to Mayweather that he had some kind of a shoulder injury. And so a bunch of people who spent money on the fight and who bet on the fight, I would assume, are suing Pacquiao for not disclosing it before the fight, right?
Good. He should be punished because what he actually was doing was just pouting that he lost.
He was pouting that he lost.
And And now this is the perfect punishment. It's going to cost you $7 million because you couldn't just admit that you lost.
I know, but Manny Pacquiao's got $7 million like in his other boxing shorts. He doesn't care about $7 million. But I'll tell you this. Now that I'm going to act all Jimmy the Greek, like I can call any fight because I called this one so well, because I'm really on my high horse here. Let me tell you something. Manny Pacquiao could have had a bionic arm. He wasn't going to win that fight. He could have had a bionic arm and a bionic leg like Steve Austin did, where he can jump around the ring really high, and a bionic eye where he can see what Mayweather's going to do. There was no way Pacquiao was going to win that fight, injury or not.
He would need that because Mayweather has the bionic chin.
Honestly, Mayweather could have fought him blindfolded and gone after him like he was a piñata. He still would have won. Like, that's just how it is. That's the style. The defense of Mayweather is too much. Okay? But anyway, that was in the news on Wednesday. Pacquiao being sued. Waste of time. But here's the other sports story. I bet you care about this one. Remember a few weeks ago, we and everyone else in the world talked about the New England Patriots ostensibly deflating balls, and they went on to win the Super Bowl. Well, on Wednesday, it was revealed that Tom Brady, the star quarterback, most handsome man not in this studio, knew about the deflation of footballs by the New England Patriots. And this was on Wednesday, and it seems that he's now going to be suspended by the NFL for his involvement in Deflategate. What do you think?
I think Jim Irsay is one of the all-time biggest crybabies, and the only reason we have to listen to this is because the Patriots gave the Colts a historic ass-whooping, beat them by 40 points. They scored more in the second half where the balls were supposed to be evened up again, and he still can't get over it.
Okay.
This guy is famous for changing rules to help the Colts after the Colts, get beat, which they do because they're not good.
So they say they're going to suspend Tom Brady, who's apparently, now that they won the Super Bowl, they're considered like the greatest quarterback of all time, or is that a whole can of worms?
And he's going to become more beloved because they're not treating him right.
Yeah, and they're going to suspend him like 2 games, 4 games, maybe half the season of next year, right?
Won't make a difference. The Pats will still finish better than the Colts.
Right, and that's your team, right? The Patriots?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Okay, so that happened Wednesday. Can you tell, by the way, that I really don't care very much about any of this? I'm just doing it. I'm doing it for you and for the gentle listener.
No, I appreciate it. You're throwing me a bone.
I am completely throwing you a bone. And I gave you a new hat. I thought about our relationship as I got you that hat. Because, I have thought about what you are. Like, you're indispensable to the show as far as I'm concerned. And the public is concerned. I thought, like, what is Patrick? Is he the Ed McMahon to my Johnny Carson? Is he the Andy Richter to my Conan O'Brien? And it occurs to me, you know what you really are? You are the Fuji to my Super Dave Osborne.
Oh, that's very nice.
Consequently, you need a hat. You need a hat that says your name on it. And
Exactly.
So I got your hat. You know what? We're on radio. People can't see the hat. Enough with the hat. You and I know about the hat. We've bonded over the hat. Okay. Wednesday. One more story from Wednesday. A suspicious package was sent to a Newfoundland government building. Like, what is a suspicious package in Newfoundland? Like it's like fish? Like Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes? What is a suspicious package in Newfoundland? And why would you do that? We've talked about low aiming criminals and terrorists. What are you sending a suspicious?
What are you trying to accomplish?
Yeah.
You're not going to get famous from this one.
All right. But I got a tie-in. Okay? Remember I said about Jim Prentice, who just got beat bad in Alberta in the election? I said he's neither fish nor fowl. And then I've just made a fish reference. Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes. Now, one more election story from this week. David Cameron, who the greatest columnist in the world, Mark Stein, has referred to more than once, I believe, as the hapless David Cameron. And listen, I didn't get where I am today by disagreeing with Mark Stein, and I don't disagree with him about David Cameron. But David Cameron, who's the conservative, big C conservative, Prime Minister of Great Britain, who is neither fish nor fowl. He's wishy-washy. He's one of those climate change, panty-waist Tories who doesn't believe in anything, right? Like, he's whatever. Somehow, in spite of himself, he fell bass-ackward over luck, and he won the UK election. This is a week of absolute upsets. Nobody saw this coming when it comes to elections. They had an election in Great Britain. This is, Thursday night to Friday here. And people were saying there was going to be another coalition because nobody believes in anything that David Cameron said. I don't believe in anything the guy says. I think the guy's just wishy-washy, whatever you want to do, right? I think he'd fit right in as our current mayor of Toronto. But you know something? Somehow, the Liberal Democrat Party didn't do well. Labour got absolutely decimated in the north of Great Britain. And to give you a local example, folks, that's like the Liberal Party federally getting wiped out in Ontario and Quebec. They don't have any place else, right? And so for the Labour Party in Great Britain, in Scotland and in the north, they just got wiped out. And so they put up nothing. So somehow, out of nowhere, David Cameron, this guy who's like the fog, because he believes in Zippo, zero, is now the Prime Minister of Great Britain. The guy wins a majority out of nowhere. How the hell does that happen?
I have no idea. What is going on over there?
Well, yeah, and Nate Silver, okay? Nate Silver's this guy who predicts elections, and everyone thinks he's a genius, right? Those of us who put ourselves out there and make predictions, not everyone gets everything as right as I got the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight. Not everybody is that, omniscient, okay? So Nat Silver, who was considered a genius because he called the 2010 election.
He's the Ace Rothstein of
That's right.
elections.
That's right. He fixes it like the 1919 Black Sox reference. Beautiful. He called the 2012 election for Barack Obama perfectly. Okay, but he got this dead wrong, and everyone's saying what an idiot he is. And I guess he had a climate change thing. But I'll tell you that. Nobody could have picked this. Like, nobody can explain how it happened, but David Cameron wins a majority. Now, before, we don't have a hell of a lot of time. I want to get to a couple more things that I think are actually kind of important. One thing I've never talked about before publicly is this Omar Khadr. Now, this is on Friday. Omar Khadr, if you don't know, okay, when he was 15 years old, he was a driver for the Taliban in Afghanistan, and he got in a firefight with U.S. forces, and he shot and killed a U.S. medic, okay? And so he spent 13 years in prison, Guantanamo Bay, and then here. He was freed on bail on Friday. And this is a big news story. It's been covered on the station, covered in newspapers. And I've never said a word about Omar Khadr. Because again, like Alberta, I'm not comparing Omar Khadr to Alberta. Just exhale. What I'm saying is it's one of those topics guys I know care about, but I don't consider it to be my circus. I do not consider it to be my monkeys. But this is a big enough story that I have to say something. They say Omar Khadr was 15 years old when he shot and killed this medic. And okay, he was 15 years old. And then they say, he was a kid. He was a kid. So how do you keep a kid in prison? Like, how do you keep him in prison for 13 years or the rest of his life when he's a child? He doesn't know. And they say, who are we to decide? How can we decide? Who can decide? My answer to that is this. Me. I can decide. Call me up. I'll decide in 1 second. No, he doesn't get out of jail. No, Omar Khadr doesn't get out. Because you know what? Even if you are the most Christ-like, forgiving person in the world, you can forgive. By all means, you can forgive. And maybe that U.S. medic's family might forgive Omar Khadr for killing him. But you know something? There are still consequences for what you do.
13 years is pretty generous for a murder.
Well, that's right. And when you kill someone, and when you kill them, and when you're aligned with terrorists, you don't get out. And maybe the things Omar Khadr said about himself, I'm a better guy than people think, maybe that's true. But you know what? Maybe that U.S. medic was a pretty darn good guy, too.
Amongst guys who make bombs on camera, he might be a very good guy.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean he's not a serious risk.
Seriously. Yeah, exactly. Besides being, and not even, maybe he isn't a risk. That's not the point. You align yourself with terrorists and you kill somebody, there are consequences for that. Maybe he'll become a great person in jail, but that's where he ought to be. Here endeth the lesson. Two more things, very important. On Friday, the House of Commons, the Conservative Party, with the support of the Liberal Party, passed this bill C-51, the snooping bill. I don't like it. I haven't read the bill because I don't feel like it. I want to table that, Patrick. We're going to deal with it later. About a minute left. A couple more important things. First, this guy, Patrick Brown, this 36-year-old, today, he won. He won the leadership of the Ontario Conservative Party. How'd that happen?
Yeah.
He was endorsed by Wayne Gretzky, and I said at the time, I think it's weird that Gretz was endorsing someone and that political endorsements don't work. You know what? That might have been the exception that proves the rule, exceptio regulam probat, because this Patrick Brown, he earned it. Guy came from nowhere and he won. And the C-51 thing, by the way, it's not law yet. The snooping bill that was passed in the Commons, the manatees in the Senate have to approve it. And if they do, it becomes law. And then we'll do a show about it, okay?
Perfect.
Book it.
Spy show.
One last thing before we go. Rob Ford's going under the knife this week. We've been reporting it here on this station. Rob Ford, he's got 10-hour surgery, 4 different surgeons. He says, I just want to wake up. That's what he hopes for this. I just want to wake up. And I'll tell you something on behalf of me, and I'm going to do it. Everybody else at the station, I don't care who you voted for. We wish Rob Ford the best, and you will wake up, your worship. And I wish you all the best, Rob Ford. Folks, this is Theo Caldwell. This has been an excellent broadcast. You truly enjoyed it. Good night.
Thank you.